Hello, John.
Hello, Oliver.
And today we're going to talk about Glen Beach Cliff Walk. It's just on the outskirts of Wicklow town. It's Wicklow Head. It's an absolute beautiful place. I came across it there recently and I took some photos. So we're going to talk about that if you want to go ahead there.
Yes, yes. I think I heard of it because I was familiar with Wicklow, living in Bray. I would have been down there quite a bit, and in the Wicklow area and in the county as well, because it was very convenient. And the job I worked at, I was often free a couple of days during the week, so it was a good time to go. Because, funny enough, at the weekend, even years ago, and it's probably even worse now, when we were maybe on a Sunday coming from some part of County Dublin, perhaps Dalkey, where we often went for a walk around and had a good walk, myself and my late wife Julie. And the funny thing is that Wicklow was also, as I said, that we visited, and I'm sure I would have been visiting where this Glen Beach is, and it's a lovely scenic place, and wherever there's a cliff, and there is there, I think, where you can walk, and it's a few kilometres, but it's not too bad from the point of view of anybody that's reasonably fit, irrespective of what age you are. So that's a great amenity. To see the sea and the wildlife that's in the sea by way of the animals in the sea, the various birds and the various animals like seals that are there, and often then they're when they're resting or there's new seals being born, they often are on piloted them on a section of that particular walk, and it's a good sight for people that's not used to seeing these. I grew up near the seaside, so I saw seals and ones like that from a quite a young age over in Ireland's Eye, which was from just an island off Holt, and I used to help a man that had boats, punts they used to call them, and a motorboat that used to bring people over to Ireland's Eye, and I'd be over there with him. Matter of fact, I got a good few customers for him, myself and my brother. Just to digress, just for a second about seals, so Ireland's Eye was full of seals, so I saw seals from quite a young age now, but the Glen Beach walk in Wicklow, quite near Wicklow town, is a marvellous amenity for the people there, and also I think from what I remember of it, it has birds, it has views. It refreshes the mind to see nature in that point of view, and the marvellous scenery, and in some ways the quietness. Because funny enough, when you're at a walk like that and you see the sea is there, it's a very tranquil sign. You feel the better after a walk like that.
Absolutely, and the thing is, there's the ruins of a small church from penal times, and there's a holy well called Tubber Bride. So
lovely.
So
that's the old Irish probably description of it, a holy well. That might have been used by our ancestors even during the penal times when they were treated very poorly. Probably that, because Mass was only celebrating Mass rocks, they probably were using holy wells, and they might have cures. Some holy wells had cures for different things, because faith is a funny thing that brings cures. But the holy well would be a feature of it, and there would often be little mementos on the holy well.
Yeah, so local tradition maintains that the fishermen would drink from the well in the belief that it would protect them while at sea. There's also evidence of a 19th century rifle range on the walk. So it's quite interesting. I seen a few seals when I was there. Okay?
Yes.
And they do from September to December. They start having babies, and you actually see a whole pile of seals. So what you have is basically a collection of tiny beaches, stone beaches. Okay.
Yes.
And even on the hottest day of the year that I was there was only a few people there, and on one particular little beach there was nobody. So when I say a beach, it was a small stone beach.
And probably hard to get down to it.
No, actually very easy.
Oh, was it?
And so I sat there with a friend of mine, and we were thinking, geez, you know, it's the only place where I've been on a beach on my own. And that particular little beach is where the seals actually give birth. Okay,
Totally, because it's a bit inaccessible in some ways, or is it accessible?
Oh no, totally accessible.
Oh, but then of course you can't go near seals when in that condition because the attack and that kind of thing. So, but it's the fact that such a variety to see as you're walking on that walk, and you mentioned the Holy Well, which is a great. I think it's a great asset to any place, and this country has a lot of holy wells. We spoke about it before one time, and I think it's marvellous, and people visit it because people, funny enough, even people that have not grown up in any religious environment or spiritual environment. Younger people particularly are often seeking kind of some little answers to life and what they're experiencing, because the secular agenda and a life without some kind of a spiritual thing doesn't bear any fruit, and often causes depression in people, which I believe quite a few young people are suffering from that because of the fact that they're not practicing anything of that calibre. I'm not surprised a fisherman did that, because that's faith again, and it probably did protect them, because faith can move mountains, believe it or not, and so that's a great example of the faith that the people had. They was often out in tough weather and stormy weather, because it wasn't always just calm seas and funny enough rough, and to be out in that, and so their lives would be in danger because they wouldn't have the sort of facilities that a big boat would have, like a proper barrier there. They might only have a small barrier about that much, and that's not much compared to when you're on deck and your nets cast out to catch fish, and which they did. And so that was often a staple diet for many people, fishermen, and then they were able to sell the excess fish and it got an income. So that's a marvellous example of what the fishermen did, and of course it would have been a lot of people would have been visiting these places, and the fact that there was a church, a Catholic church that was present there means there must have been a bit of a population around. And because people were reduced to living in very straitened circumstances because of the oppression of the penal times and such like. Don't forget that was really up until we got our freedom, quite frankly. Things were relaxed a bit, but there was a lot of interference with people's lives. This is the danger with people with power. Sometimes they don't actually look after the people in the way that they should. They're looking after themselves, and the people don't count. But fortunately, that walk is there and provides great solace for people using it. And I think that's the word. And the holy wells and the church that was there is a great example of what they've done. And I think, is there a golf club there?
There is a golf club. You're right. Yes, there is a golf club.
Well, there's probably a golf links. If it's near the sea, they're often called golf links, because that's one of the things. And I know there was I had a colleague, two colleagues that lived in Wicklow, and I remember one time we wouldn't be much at golf, but I certainly wasn't. I might take a few shots at a ball to go a few yards, but I think we were down at a golf links somewhere in Wicklow, and it could have been that one. Out there, because it's not too far, but I forget now where it was, but it was a golf links, and if it's near the sea they're often called golf links. But it's good that there's something there. And then is there anything else there? Is there a hotel? There was any kind of a guest houses there?
No, I didn't come across anything like that. It's very kind of, there probably is guest houses there, but you know, what I done was I done the entire cliff walk. And then
lovely.
You come up to this kind of, it's a tower, it's a lighthouse of some sort. I don't know much about it, I'll have to find out more about it. But the views are absolutely spectacular.
Oh, the lighthouse, yes. I think you said something about the lighthouse. It's for rent, and it's there's a lot of rooms in it, but it's quite expensive to rent.
No, I think you're mixing that up with a different place. This place, you can't actually get access to the lighthouse. So
is that right? Yeah.
When you go on the walk, you go way up the top, up to the cliff, right? And then there's this huge, what looks like some kind of lighthouse or some kind of lookout. It's a big tower.
Yes.
And there's constant security on the tower. So there's a gate when you get to the top, right? And there's a guy sitting in the car in the baking heat. He was there on his phone, and he says, "Sorry, sir, no access here." Okay. So and there's a sign up, "No trespassing." You're not allowed in there. Apparently.
Well, then it must be occupied or something.
Something, yeah, I don't know.
It must be for rent, I think. The funny thing is that I think I saw a picture of it, and it's quite a tall structure, isn't it?
Oh, very.
And people think that was you could be rented, but you'd have to go up a stair. You know, it looked like as if you'd want to be fit to be going up all these probably narrow stairs.
They would do much better to put something like that in O'Connell Street instead of the Spire.
Well, you see. This is the trouble. This is why O'Connell Street has been destroyed compared to being one of the loveliest streets in Europe and a showpiece, beautiful. And I remember being because I was walking quite near there, and quite frankly, it was just a joy. And there was a water fountain in O'Connell Street. There was flowers over O'Connell Bridge. It was just beautiful. But the trouble is, we have a media that seemed to be a lot of sick people in it, even those times, because they were ridiculing the fountain, which was supplied by Smurfits, and cost them £1 million. Lot of money in those times, so you can visualise the cost of it relative to the time that was there. Mm-hmm. And I was in my, early 20s or late teens when that was there, and as I say, O'Connell Bridge had flowers in it. It was beautiful. It was just a sight for sore eyes, and lovely wide street and friendly people and shops open, and on a Sunday people used to often visit it, husbands and wives, and they'd be doing a bit of window shopping, especially the wives, because and they were always well dressed. They'd be looking at what was going on in Cleary's and various on, and Dublin was a very friendly city where people could go about in peace and safety. There was plenty of security, plenty of Gardaí on the beat, as the fella says. They were on the street. They weren't stuck in the station as they are now. So it was lovely. And O'Connell Street was crying out, considering that Nelson's Pillar was destroyed, first by the IRA and then by the government. The right to build a structure that could incorporate a lift, perhaps, and a restaurant. Mm-hmm. It would have been a great tourist attraction, and leave the O'Connell Street alone from the point of view of what they have there now. They widen the footpaths. Cars now can't go up and down. Just buses and taxis. It's a deplorable city. Most other cities in Europe, in capital cities, they've kept their wide thoroughfares. They haven't interfered with the development the way they have in Dublin, and then put in a thing like a Spire that provides nothing for anyone, only a eyesore. Put in something that could have been concrete, which we produce in plentiful in this country. Put in that, and perhaps a restaurant, and perhaps a lift, and some kind of a viewing platform up on top that could be accessed without having to walk upstairs. A lift. Exactly. Very simple. And then people could have had a view of the city, because Dublin has one of the great advantages, at least it had, that there wasn't skyscrapers dwarfing everything. So we lost out. And we're digressing a bit now from the
Glencliff. But anyway, so Glencliff, it's well worth going to. It's very unique. There aren't many people there when I was there, and it was the hottest day of the year. So it's a joy to bring kids there as well to see the seals and you know.
Exactly, and for the tranquility attached to it, there wouldn't be crowds on it because they don't seem to do a lot of walking. Sometimes young people, you don't see them out and about the way you used to.
Yeah.
Whatever way they're living, we grew up outdoors and up to this, that and the other. We certainly didn't want to be in the house, and our parents weren't watching us like hawks. We were free to go. Now I notice, and we used to have to do the shopping for the parents. Now I notice that young people are often with their parents in the shops or here, there and yonder. They don't seem to have a life separate. With other friends and playing at that. You can often drive down the country and you see nobody in a farm out and about the way one used to.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't see that kind of liveliness and that puts you in good humour. People seem to be stuck indoors. I don't know what they're at.
Yeah.
You have to be outdoors, and you were outdoors in that lovely walk, and many people on it. I'm going to be paying a visit myself. Because we used to walk, myself and my late wife, from Bray to Greystones, and that was 6 miles.
Oh, wow.
And up a cliff and all the rest of it, and part of it was often a bit dangerous. And when we'd get to Greystones, we'd have a cup of tea, a pot of tea and a couple of scones in the Latouche Hotel when it was open. It's no longer open. So I don't know why they're paying big money for Greystones when there isn't a hotel. And there isn't a hotel, or there's a Woodlands Hotel, stuck in the middle of nowhere. Anyways, that's the great thing about these walks. Had one from Bray to Greystones, beautiful, and we walked that many a Sunday.
Oh, wow.
Lovely. Summer and winter. There was none of this business of, well, not so much when it was raining, because then you like to be able to see something, and you could, marvellous views.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Sounds
lovely,
great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you very much.